Okay, good evening and welcome everyone back to another World Creator live stream. Today, we're going to be covering a little bit of the new beta that is soon to release to everyone. I don't know if it's going to be released later this week or later next week, but it'll surely be sometime pretty soon. I got a good head start on this, and I wanted to kind of showcase some of y'all's the possibilities of this new update, particularly around sculpting. There's a lot of effort that's been put into the sculpting features and that extra support, and we'll definitely cover that very soon. But to start off, I'm just going to run through some of the announcements real quick. So, today they just announced some of the new updates with the website, particularly, and this is one thing that I've seen, is where if you've had the issue of getting on the website or trying to log into the software and you get an error that says too many workstations or you've exceeded the workstation limit or whatever that is, don't worry. I think they've since put a fix to that, because what's happened is that little icon that lets you release the workstation limit was actually bringing up the sort of code that lets you release the World Creator 2 workstation list and not the World Creator 3 workstation list, which is what the problem has been. So that little button hasn't worked, and it should be working soon or has been fixed as of today, one of the two. You shouldn't have an issue with that. And if you still have an issue with that, there is a new, and I'm going to try and bring it up here real quick. There is a new support ticket system on the website. Well, let me log in real quick just to see. All right, I'm just going to bring this over here. All right, so when you go into your account and you log in and stuff, you have profile, seats, your download samples, and all this stuff. So there's a new support ticket item. So you just click on that and you talk about your support or whatever your issue is, and it'll be a brand new system that kind of helps them be a bit more organized. Also, they've got docs now. These are definitely not finished, especially since the user interface is still getting some overhaul right now. So I would say that this is sort of some frequent questions, but this documentation down here kind of helps you go through the process of introducing you to the software, how to purchase it, understanding the customer portal, which is where I was just at, installing World Creator on your system, and also activating the software. That's some of the new things, and I haven't actually gone through all of this yet to do proofreading, but it should be pretty straightforward to understand exactly what to do. So that's pretty cool that that's in there now. And of course, the documentation, I'm working on some documentation and they're working on some documentation to kind of help streamline this process for everybody. But I do know that there are some user interface updates coming that will kind of sort of reshape some of the structure, and it would be kind of an injustice or a waste of time to do all that while those things are kind of still in the process of changing. Okay, so next updates, let's see. They have extended the customer portal by reseller portal and will soon enable our reseller and affiliate program, which means everyone may become an affiliate by signing up on our store and start selling World Creator. That's pretty cool. I haven't heard that yet. That should be some pretty cool information that would be coming out soon. So we shall see and see. Last but not least, yes, the beta, which technically is the version that I have, 2022.3, the non-beta-esque version. Let's see, should be coming sometime before Christmas. We are polishing things a bit and adding support on loading previous World Creator project files and whatnot. And also, Stefan and the team are planning to also do a live stream over this same version that I have right here in front of you. It'll be Saturday. The plan is Saturday at 9 p.m. Central European Time or 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So come and hang out to that stream. I'll probably try to be there. We'll see. I don't know if I'll be part of the panel or not. I'll have to check on that, but it should be a fun stream to kind of go over some more chill vibes of the same breakdown of what I'm going to kind of showcase you today. All right. So the very next thing I want to address real quick is to see if there's any questions in the beta question tab. And one of the questions resulted to, can you use this particular version for stuff now, like, commercial work or anything like that? And you certainly can, because you can definitely export things. And we've kind of gone over that in the past. You can export stuff now. But it's still a beta. So take your time in understanding that process, and also understanding that if something screws up, to expect that to understand it's still in a beta. And the other question was, when will 2022.3 be released? So that's the version that I'm on right now. And hopefully, like I just said, before Christmas. If it's not later this week, then it'll be sometime the end of next week, I would imagine. So we shall see how that goes. But the primary thing that we're going to talk about today is the new sculpting stuff that has come out. They've basically gone through and polished a fair bit of things in the sculpting aspect. And the sculpting is in the little pencil icon here. So you have sculpt layers. Let me change the terrain size to 2K real quick. And let's just change our sky intensity down a smidge. All right, something around here. All right, so we have a 2K terrain that we can kind of play around with. All right, so the new sculpting terrain layers is the pencil icon. So we have the terrain layer, the biome layer, and the sculpt layer. So this is going to be just like the other aspects of the program. It's going to be a layer-based system, and we can add a layer. And you can see I click the layer. I shall do this first. Let's start over here. Select a layer. All right, so this is what you're presented with at the very beginning. Let's just put the sun behind us. So this is pretty cool in that we can kind of stack our effects. I do want to add that the sculpting layers does have touch and pen support if you have a touch screen or a tablet. If you have a tablet, a lot of the popular options are the Wacom or the Wacom tablets, but I do know that this will work with more than just that brand. So if you happen to have a monitor that has touch support or any tablet that has pen support, this should work. And if you were to right click on the mouse here, let me go to edit mode. If I were to right click, it brings up the quick options here. But these are the same quick options that you get for the pen support. So if you press a certain button on the pen, these little setting changes will pop up wherever your pen touches the board. Or as you can see, they're also here on the right panel. But we'll get to that in just a little bit, because I'm going to kind of run through some of these settings here with you and see what we can kind of learn, because this is my first dive. Well, this is my second or third time diving into this. So we're going to kind of learn this together. All right, so the first thing that you will see is we can have an area that can be adjusted to edit in, basically. So grabbing one of the four corners, we can change its size. We can move it around. You can't rotate it yet because this is just going orthogonal to the rest of the terrain. And right now, it's only a perfect square. I don't know if there's going to be a change for how this is. Maybe it's more optimized. With it being a perfect square, there could be some LOD settings that prevent it from being a different size. I'm not sure yet, but this is where we're at right now. One cool thing is that we can snap this to whatever the size the terrain is. We can have it go off the corners, but if we want to not have to worry about stretching these corners, if I can grab it, and filling in the terrain, we can press this little icon here and it will snap to the rest of the terrain. We can shape it again however we want, and again snap it. We can also rename this, so let's just name this test layer 1, and maybe numbers don't work. They do work. Okay, so it's just a little bit of delay. So we can rename the layer however we want, which is really cool, and we can add multiple layers. We're going to do that here in just a few minutes after we kind of talk about this next few settings. Okay, the resolution, the default is 32, but that has to do with how many sort of subdivisions this is. So I'm going to go ahead and click edit, and you can see if I were to, let me fill this terrain so it's a little bit easier to see. You can see the grid pattern here of these subdivisions, and that is the resolution. So the resolution, we can just call this subdivisions for better understanding. We can go down to 16, 64, 128, which is really good, and 256. That is a minute amount of edit. And let me also, so that you can kind of see some of the clicking I'm doing. Haven't used this in a while. I'm going to put on my key history so that you can kind of see some of the keystrokes I'm making. Basically, again, instead of, you can use all these settings, which we'll go through again, but I am holding down the shift to activate whatever the brush is, holding down shift and scrolling up or down to change the fall off of this brush. And you can see over here that fall off is changing in real time. So as I'm scrolling, you can see that fall off of the brush alpha texture is changing at the same time. Let's go ahead, and I don't know actually, is there a flatten button? Okay, so we haven't, that is interesting. So we will get to all of that in just a moment. Let's delete that. And I wonder if there is a, now that I'm thinking about it, anyway, we'll discuss that. So the resolution basically is the, there we go. So add. Okay, so we have different modes. All right, so the resolution is the divisions, the subdivisions so far. And that's, so there's different modes here that we can kind of go about. There's the select mode, the sculpt mode, actions, operation mode, and fall off mode. We're going to get to those in just a little bit. We're going to run down each and every setting. All right, so we understand what resolution is. The level step, that has to do with which level of detail you want to start out with. I don't know if this has a, yeah, so you can see we have, let's go to, let's see. All right, so we have 11 levels of adjustment here based on our resolution. So it's 2K. So here, taking the level up to 10 in this case is the max. So that's, you can see how sharp that is. If we take the level step down to 3, you can see that fall off is a little bit more smooth. So this basically, I would say this level step here is not to determine the amount, the kind of detail that you're sculpting, but it's determining the type of detail that's going to be within the blend range. That's my understanding. And the blend range is basically this blend size and blend roundness. If we were to increase the blend roundness, you can see if I were to fill this in, you can see the blend roundness makes basically a circle. And if I were to reduce the blend roundness, that fall off goes to the very, very edge. Blend size, you can see basically it just creates an additional fall off from the edge inward. If I were to, again, increase the blend roundness, that fall off becomes a circle. So the bottom, the inset is a circle, and the blend is just how smooth that is. So if you want to create stamps that are very easy to blend around, just set the blend size to about 50% like this, and then you can kind of sculpt your stamp in this sort of fashion. Terrain stamps are coming. I don't really know. I think this terrain stamp functions are going to come in the new year, so it'll be World Creator 2023 at that point. Hey, Night Shift Gaming, nice to see you. How you doing this evening? We're just going over some of the new functions in the software. So depending on how large, you can even start your individual craters this way, which will be pretty cool. Maybe we can do a crater stream to kind of showcase that. And you can turn, if you don't want to see the blend area, you can turn it off and on right here. Up here, the position is basically just, if you can see, I scale this down. The scale size is going to change based on how I scale it. And the position is going to change. I think the position is based on the center point, perhaps? No, the position is based on this lower left node here. Good, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to see a friendly face join up. Let me know, since you're the first person to respond, if I sound okay, because I had an issue with my previous mic and I've now sent it off to be fixed. And so I've got a backup that's a little bit more sensitive. Sweet. Thank you very much. All right. So, and you can adjust these scalars here and the position. You can do all this stuff typing. So I believe what happens if I were to take this blend size and drop in a little bit more, the sort of level step has to do with the blend ranges detail. And let's see if I were increase that. Yeah. You see, as I increase it up to 10, you see how smooth that blend range is right in the middle. It will basically, you're controlling how much detail you are starting off with. So I think 5 is pretty good. 4 is if you really want to get granular with it. But let's just take these all the way down so that we can kind of have a little bit more control of what we're going to showcase next. This next few section, I would say, is sort of your groundbreaking effects, your operation. The operation mode, a lot of people really haven't really grasped some of that aspect in the filters, for example. And by default, most of the filters are really the biomes are set to overwrite. So you can see here, it's just whatever we're going to sculpt is going to overwrite the detail that's below it. If I were to change this to add, well, we don't see anything until we start to sculpt on top of the other terrain. We have other options like min and max, and that's just, the different types of fall offs there. The interpolation mode is linear, so it's a 0 to 1 range, but we have some other types of fall off here. I don't know if they're operational yet, but we're going to stick with linear because it's your most common piece. Height offset and height scale is going to determine where this point or this base plate is for sketching, basically. So right now it's set to 0, 0 by default, and you can see that with my cursor. If I were to increase the height offset, which you can see it's 0, 0. If I were to increase this, my base plate for my canvas for sculpting is risen up and down. The height scale is just going to take whatever we've sculpted and change that scale, however we want, which we can't see because right now it's 0. So let's go ahead and go to edit mode and just change our resolution to 64. I'm going to, and you can see the sort of selection or the modification information here in the bottom. I'm going to paint, hold shift and scroll up and down again to get the different sort of blending ranges. And if I hold control and scroll up and down, you can see I'm changing the brush size. Alt just does that. So if I were to increase this up, and then if we were to then take the height scale and increase that, you can see that's what's changing. Right now, our selection mode is to add. So the height scale, if we go down to 0, is not going to do anything. If I were to, let's see, go down, then you can see the height scale will go in reverse. So if I were to have a section that is up and a section that is down, the height scale is just going to stretch both values quite drastically. So we'll just keep those at minimum. All right, so let's now go over some of the different edit settings here. Again, this wasn't here before. Oh, and also it's really cool because we can go around and edit. And let's go ahead and add another sculpt layer. So this second sculpt layer, if I were to select it, sorry, that's added up top. The second sculpt layer, since it's on, let me just name this one first. I know I did a T. There we go. And the second sculpt layer, second. All right. So this is the second one that we just created. You can see that it is overriding everything because it's set to overwrite. If I were to then drag this one underneath, if I were, probably easier to drag this one on top, then this one, ooh, since it's second, that is interesting. So that's a bug. This one, what's on top should be what's on top actually. Yeah, because that's a bug I just found. So even though whichever one you've added second doesn't matter. So I'll have to mention that. So basically, whichever layer is supposed to be on top takes the primary overwrite function. But I can mention that. But again, your operation mode is going to make a big difference typically. So I'm kind of surprised to see that happen that way. But again, this is still a beta, so that's just a operational bug because it knows that I have applied this one second, so it thinks that's the next one in the sequence, no matter how it's displayed in the layers. Not a big deal. They can fix that later. But the point here is, even with having an operation mode of add, we can go through and say we want this resolution to be bigger, or not bigger, but more fine grain. We can go in here and alter some of these details. So it's a little bit more of an organization thing, because I used to teach this on this stream many times on how to set up new biomes, many different biomes, and also set those biomes to have different subdivisions for custom base shape layers, because it used to be called custom base shape layers. But now they're just sculpt layers, and you can set up these sculpt layers with whatever resolution you want, which is fantastic. I can come through and do the bulk setup on this first layer, go to the second layer, which is a bit more fine-tuned. And maybe I don't like where it's at. Maybe I shift it over, and you can see the shift comes with it. Maybe I'll just shift it right here and then go back to edit mode again. And I'll fine tune some of the details. This is just a terrible example of design here, but it's really just to exemplify the point. And then say we have a third one. Let's bring this one down so y'all can see. We'll call this third. And this one is even more granular detail. We'll set this operation to add. Edit, and now we can go through and really be nitpicky about some of the details. So even though it's adding information to, you can only add so much information from or against. It's just a matter of which layer has priority over the other and understanding that difference. Let me go right here. Maybe we can see a little bit better. Maybe I want to cut in a little bit more of a valley here. So this is obviously a different, the traditional method of sculpting that we've been used to, but we'll get more control on how this is being sculpted in just a little bit, how I kind of show you. So let's now go through some of these additional settings. Let's delete this and let's just start with a blank slate. And move this right here. Let's just fill the scene. Let's go ahead and fill the scene. All right, so edit. All right, so we have add, which again, we'll just add information however we want. Let's see, align. Actually, let's do this. Align should mean that we select something right here and then we put our cursor. So now all of this stuff that I've highlighted, if I put my cursor over here and click shift, we should be able to, pull everything that was in blue down to where my cursor is. If I were to, let's say, click add and make this really spiky, go to align and then take all of this stuff and put my cursor here at the very top, align, it'll bring it up to that level. So that's pretty cool. All right, let's now, let's see. I want to figure out where there's not like a, actually, hold on. We should be able to do Control Z. And Control Z did not do me justice there. That's okay. All right. So let's now go to, let's paint something else real quick. All right. So duplicate means we can take all this, then duplicate it over. So you can see I'm holding shift and I'm just moving a copy of it basically over here. Maybe I like this and I'm going to duplicate that over here. Rotate should be pretty understood. So we're going to just rotate this information. You can see it's not creating a copy. It's just, actually it might be creating a copy. Well, it is rotating a piece of it. Yeah. Scale, take pieces of it. You can see it's going to scale up or down the selected region. Oh, tilt is really cool. I like this one. So we're going to select this and we're going to tilt the terrain in whatever direction you want. So this is really cool for if we wanted to make a bunch of slanted pieces, like a terrain that has a bunch of really sharp slanted striations. Let me, change the brush size. Maybe the top here is slanted even more. Yeah, kind of getting the idea of some of the effects. And you could do this in the previous version. It's just a little bit, I think it's a bit smoother. All right, push and pull is very similar. Instead of the add, which lets you add up or down, push or pull means you're just going to go in one direction. So I think a little bit more fine grained sort of edits. but it lets you choose if you want to go in one direction or the other without obviously going down below a certain threshold. All right, so over here on the right, and I think we've shown this before, is sort of a preview of what your brush looks like. The scale is a little bit off, but you can also change the brush radius and the brush smoothness, which my brush is way too big in this case. This brush is scaled for much larger, you can see much larger terrain work, but that's okay. We're going to make it small. And the brush smoothness, you see I'm holding the shift and scrolling up and down the mouse. That's basically this, but it's not updating live right now, so that's okay. We'll get it figured out. All right, so this is some new stuff that I haven't seen yet, the sculpt stuff. So if I were to click raise, so you see this select category lets you basically, so let me backtrack here. Everything within this select category, so that add, line, duplicate, all this stuff that we just did, is basically selecting, these individual subdivisions, which again, remember, is based on the resolution, the individual subdivisions that we established up here. So that's what select is going to do. Sculpt, from what I understand, is it removes those, and though it does matter what resolution you choose, you get a bit more settings to adjust here. So let's change our brush size. Maybe we lower the smoothness down. Oh, that's a bit too big. Okay, so this one, so control and scrolling lets you change the brush size. All right, so smoothness isn't there yet. So let's make it not smooth. And the brush strength, let's just see what raise does. There we go. So now I am holding and moving. So if I go back and forth, it's going to keep adding information. So this is just like, actually, let me restart this so that we can kind of see just the sculpting. All right, so let's increase the smoothness a little bit and lower the brush size. All right, so our, let's see, height, change amount. So maybe the max that you can go is 150 meters while holding the mouse at a single time without re-clicking. So if we were to say, all right, so brush strength is 100%. So if I go back and forth, see, I can't keep adding information to this top area. And that's 300 meters. So if I were to click again, I could add more information. It's getting close to, it's going to cap out at 600, I bet. Let's see this one right here. Yeah, right there. You see it capped at 600. So every time you release a click, it adds another 300. So maybe that's what this was, but the number's wrong. If I were to reduce this down to, say, 10, let's do it over here. So yeah, you see the increase is only getting up to close to 20. So it's a little bit, it's about double the amount here. So that's cool. So you can set a height range for how long you want to hold the mouse, but every time you re-click it, it starts that range all over again. All right, so that's good. And I wonder if you change resolution. Oh yeah, so I'm going to go down to 16. You can see it's only going to paint in based on a 16 by 16 resolution or amount of subdivisions. Increase this to 256. We can then go back and add even more detail. I think with the sculpt layer, maybe this should be able to go up to 120, 124, whatever the resolution of your terrain is. That would be pretty handy. So if I were to add, I think if you were to, nope. All right. So typically with the other one, if you hit Control or Alt and paint, it should reduce the size, but that's why we have raise and lower. So maybe we can lower this now. So a little bit more adjustments that I think that could be made, but this is a great start here. All right. Obviously, if you lower the resolution and do this, it's going to lower even quicker because that's just how the resolution works. All right, this is cool. Let me come to this end. Maybe we've done something like this. Let's change this to 100. Oh man, there we go. This is a good example. Let's make all these stalagmites here. All right, so say we want to smooth this out. So this is what this should be used for. So let's see here. Let me take the strength down to 50% and see what happens. Oh yeah, these that smooths way too much. All right, let's do this again. Brush strength, we'll take it up. Maybe we do, yeah, there we go. Maybe we just make all these little notches here. All right, so this looks janky. So smooth, we'll change the brush strength down this time to about 10%. Stretch this out and maybe expand the smoothness out a little bit. So I'm gonna click once. There we go. That's still pretty dang strong. Let's do 0.02. So this is even more of the sculpting that we've been hoping for. Like it's great. I'm just smoothing things out based on it, and it's going to average it out. So if I were to, wherever my cursor is, if I were to click this lower level, you can see me clicking is going to smooth the top pieces out to that level. But I bet if I were to click on this top level here, it's still going to smooth it out as an average, but it's going to be less prominent of a smoothing job. That's really cool. Flatten. Let's see. Flatten height. So let's lower this by 20 meters. Oh, and brush strength. Actually, let's set this to 0. If I can type. Set it to 0. Whoops. There we go. So, all right. So flatten is sort of the tool that lets you choose a height range that it's going to go up or down to. So I'm choosing that the flatten height or the level height is 0 meters above sea level. So wherever I paint is going to go 100% to 0 meters. This is really cool. Say I want this area to go up to 100 meters. 100 meters. This area is being flattened to 100 meters, and look how smooth that is. Man, we're going to have so many good live streams now. Say I want this to be, this is going to make, and I'm going to say this with a grain of salt, this is going to make creating terraces so much fun because we can create custom terraces in like sculpt terraces however we want. All right, let's say we want to make this 50. And brush smoothness, I can't talk, is set to nothing. And say we want a path this way. We should really have this be 120. There we go. There we go. So I'm just gonna create, this is actually really funny. It's the World Creator logo. Let's increase this to 256 and we can do a little bit more sharper. Look, there we go. We just created the World Creator logo without even thinking about it. Let's go down to 25. Change the size a little bit. And we can cut through this with the brush going to 25 exactly, which is really cool. So it's I think more resolutions is needed, being able to increase this even higher, because then it would give us even more fidelity. But this is a great start. This is getting custom usability is pretty remarkable. All right, so now we have rotate. So I wonder how this is going to affect. Let's see. Let's take. Ooh. So we don't even have to select an area. So say we want. Let's do flatten and set this to 0. Let's make another example. All right, we flatten this. All right, let's do raise. A plus. Okay, now let's do rotate. Now you could also rotate by selecting, doing this selection too. We could increase the size. So we can select all of this and we can still rotate it. So it does make a copy. So I think I have a note to add when it comes to that. So let's do a rotate and increase our brush size. There we go. So it's just a little bit more fine adjustments. How about we rotate this? So this is important. It seems like the select mode, whenever you rotate, it will duplicate. See, it duplicates the action. See, the part of it is still there. But the rotate on the sculpt, is rotating the actual selection and not copying it, so to speak. So see, it's rotating. That's really cool. So that's something to remember, which is nice. It'd be nice if the rotate option here lets you have a button for copy or not copy. And I will be sure to make those notes. Scale. Big or small. Let's actually just, since we're getting kind of out of whack here, let's flatten most of this down. All right, so let's now raise. Let's make the brush strength not crazy. Lower our, there we go. Whatever this is, I have no idea. So scale, let's take and scale our brush. So we're selecting this whole thing, whatever it is, scaling up or scaling down. Ooh, so it does copy within the bounds of that brush. So that's interesting. Look at that. We've created multiple copies of this thing. That is an interesting, look at this. Talk about a procedural situation. Tilt should be a little bit similar to the other tilt, except I imagine that the options are a little bit, it's similar, very similar, but the freedom, there's a little bit more freedom to it. This is, don't stare at it too long, kids. That's really cool. Interesting. All right, so let's go ahead and flatten. Flatten everything out. Okay. All right, push pull. Push pull is going to be very similar to add. We can literally push and pull our selection. So that is really cool. You want to create a moon surface with multiple impact craters. I am just going to do something really wonky like this. Go to biomes. I'm going to add, let's see, what can we add? Ridged, dry cliffs. Rocky wide. I mean, it's just, there's just so many options here. We're going to, particle. May have to test that out here. Soft flows, ridged flows, wide flows. And let's see if we can't get some, let's see, where is my sedimentation? So talus, that's really cool. Feel soft. Oh, it looks so good. Mud, I freaking love mud. All right, so we just created something dope in like 3 seconds. But let's say we go back to this edit layer, and I want to push this down. Push that down a little bit. So there's a little bit of delay with the filters and all. Let's see if we can't raise this up. Look at that. So the filters are having a pretty interesting impact. Let's see if we can't take this. Hold on. This, and let's just scale it down a little bit. Maybe we want this to scale up a little bit. Maybe we're like, we're just going to flatten this to about 21 meters. Flatten that to 21 meters. And it's getting there. Or how about we just think, oh, this right here is just a little bit too sharp. Let's take and smooth it down just a smidge. Okay, it is smoothing down, but the filters are kind of doing us a number here. But maybe we can rotate. Ooh. That is interesting. See, so the filter mud here, let's see. Let's turn off mud because it's doing some weird stuff here. Say we... Oh, I turned that off, didn't I? Wow, okay. Let's get this back up to reality. Hold on. All right, so we're now back to some semblance of reality here. Oh, this is cool. Let's take and flatten this back down to 0. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I can totally stop here. So I'm going to come on, get down the flat. There we go. That's really cool. Or minus that number, and we'll do this. Oh, look at that. That's so cool. All right, so now we can, let's turn off our filters here to kind of see the base of what we're doing, because I want to go ahead and show a line. This is very similar to the other aligns. So let's say, I'm not sure how this is going to work. Let's see, align to, okay. So this is cool. So the align option here lets you select a region like this. And then you have to use the cursor, like I said, hold shift to select the percentage. Let me zoom here. Select the percentage right here. It's at 1 meter. So I'm going to do this. And that you can see flattens down to 1 meter. But this one, where was that? Align. This lets you align to wherever the center of the cursor is. So let's say, let's go over here. You see my cursor is at 28 meters, but we know this little ridge here is above 28 meters. If I were to go ahead and select this and paint, you see how it just kind of morphs to wherever the center of the cursor is. So 28 up here, 28. Oh, so it's sort of an, as you move, if you move too quickly, yep, it'll pop based on where it was previously. So if you take, I see it now. So if you take my cursor here and you hold and go this way, it's going to remember that piece of landscape information that's right here. So it's going to lower the brush down with that. It's only when you release the click on the mouse that it sort of establishes the operation. So I'm going to move my cursor. Remember where that terrain was? It dipped about right there. You see how it dipped? Because it dipped naturally. If I were to go right here, release, go right here, release, go right here, release, very similar. All right. So that's all of the sculpt. So actions. Oh, there's the button. I knew there was a button for it. Here's the button to immediately just flatten everything. We can mirror, rotate left and right, flatten. Or I wonder if Control Z lets me get back to some. There we go. Yeah. Let me do flatten again because I kind of, whoops. Let's do, let's just do pockets of information again. Lower, raise, we shall take this and tilt it up. Maybe I want that a little bigger. Okay. And we shall push and pull that up and down. Just hypothetical. So let's re-engage all this. Yay, that's kind of, yeah, so we just created something based on a little bit of sculpting. That's really cool that we can kind of just sculpt and do something very similar like that and have all the effects sort of change. The operation mode, so set, max, and min. So everything's obviously by default set. Max and min is sort of other operations for, how that's established. So let's see. Raising it is only going to raise. Let's do brush strength to kind of see where this is at. Yeah, so there's nothing that's going to go for the min value for that. Let's see, max. Oh, max. And then, yeah, it's most of the time we're going to just do the operation mode as set. I think we'll dive into a little bit more what max and min kind of truly do, but in most cases, 9 times out of 10, you're going to do set, which is perfectly fine. Let's just get that back. So linear, this is the fall off mode, and we kind of talked about the interpolation mode. All right, so linear for the interpolation mode is how I think it's part of the tessellation of the details that are being generated. And we'll dive into the more nuances of what that is. But as far as the fall off mode, linear is 0 to 1, so it's a straight curve. Smooth means it's a little bit more rounded. So let's flatten this and let's do linear. Maybe set this to 50 and we'll do strength at 50. So let's see how these compare. Going to draw a straight line all the way across just like this. Smooth. Sphere. You can see the effect, the starting effect is a little bit different and sharp. Well, let me just flatten this again. So it's a little bit more and it may be different if I were to change the brush smoothness to about 50%. Let's try this. 1, 2, you can see the smooth is a little bit more drastic. Sphere and sharp. It's not terribly different. It may be a little bit more different with come on, how this, but this fall off mode is when you, from what I understand it, let me get it down to a point and make the resolution pretty fine. If you were to, let's see, let me paint. All right, if I were to have this, all right, so linear should be one type. You see how it's just basically from the blue to the not so blue is pretty smooth based on, it's hard to tell actually with, maybe we should do it like this. All right, so now we'll go up just a little bit. Let's change it to smooth. See, the fall off of that blend pattern is a little bit different. That's what it is. So sphere. See how it's, I can't make the mouse move, but you see how that fall off pattern is a little bit more thick in the center part and it's tapered down pretty sharp to the edge. So I bet sharp, when I do this fall off pattern, you see how it's really sharp. All right, let's do that again. That's a good example. So linear, we're going to try and draw a straight line. So you look at the way that the blue fades out. I'm gonna go up. All right, so smooth. Actually, we can just do one. Let's do one here in the middle. We should be able to see the different patterns. All right, look at that one. Let's get to 0. All right, smooth. There we go. So linear is there, that's its fall off pattern. Smooth, you can see it's blended a little bit more. Sphere, you can see how it's sort of in the middle of that blue is cresting in sort of a sphere. And sharp is, you can see how drastic of a change that fall off is. Whoops. Haven't done that before. Yeah. So we'll do that. Sharp, sphere, smooth, and linear. So that's going to be the same thing, I believe, with the raise and lower. So if we were to paint something, it's hard to see in the sculpt mode because it's so drastic. You can't do a selection. So that's how the fall off works, basically. So I believe we've covered everything, and I just realized, which is terrible, that I did not record this session with my device, so that's okay. I'll have to grab this from Twitch. Dadgummit. Wow, okay. So apparently I this entire 1 hour piece I didn't even record for 4K, but that's okay. I'll just grab it from Twitch, do some upsampling and all that jazz. It'll still be available for YouTube probably next week, since this is going to be pretty close and relevant. What do we have here? Let's see. All right. So if there's no questions, we'll probably go from there. I would imagine this Saturday, Stefan is going to, like I said, do a stream to kind of do what I've been doing here to kind of create something pretty fun. You can ask questions. I'll probably be there. Let's do this. I'll probably be there and join in on the fun. But yeah, if you find yourself wanting to, let's do a push and pull. If you find yourself needing any more questions answered regarding what we've showcased here, feel free to ask me in the Discord chat or bring it up on Saturday's live stream. That's on the World Creator channel, and it is at, what was it again? 12. Hold on. Don't take my word for it here. Sorry. It is 9 p.m. Central European Time or 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is also, wow, that is not, hold on. I didn't think that was correct. So hold on, 9 p.m. CET to PST. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. It's the Eastern. I'm in Eastern time zone, so that kind of threw me off. So, so 9 p.m. Central European Time will be 3 p.m. Eastern Time or 12 p.m. Pacific Time. I got mixed up there. I apologize for that. So do check that out. I believe he's still going to stream. It'll be a fun stream. And yeah, going to talk about some more sculpting and have fun. So that sounds like a blast. This whole new sculpting layer stuff has really been a game changer. And we can just see things happen quite instantly, which is really cool. I mean, just adding things to and fro right here. So we're definitely going to have more live streams, definitely covering some sculpting. The sculpting stuff is this whole sculpt category right here is a game changer. I can already see all the possibilities that we're going to have. And come right after the new year, we're going to have the stamp function. So terrain stamps are going to be a thing. We can already do terrain stamps in a way with importing height maps and assigning those height maps to areas in the biome layer-based system. But speaking of height maps, we are going to talk about height maps and Unreal Engine's new bridge tool next Wednesday. It's going to be a pretty in-depth stream. I don't know if it's going to be on Twitch yet or YouTube. I'll probably have it on Twitch and then post the YouTube one later. But we're going to dive in. If you have any questions about height maps within World Creator, within Unreal Engine, understanding all that jazz, using the Unreal Engine bridge tool between this program and that program, we're going to dive into that. And yeah, that's the game plan next week. It should be a pretty big stream. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you soon in the next stream.